Reunion drunkenly slept with a high-strung doctor. And woke up the next day. I pretended to be dashing in order to avoid embarrassment. So. See you later? He stared at me for a long time. Suddenly smiled and said. Okay. I thought we'd never see each other again. But 2 weeks later. I was sitting in the office trembling in fear with a pregnancy test. The morning after the reunion. Before I opened my eyes. I felt a long, firm leg. And out of curiosity, I couldn't help but explore it a few more times. The next second. Bang! The door opened and a group of people poured in. I was so scared that I hurriedly withdrew my hand. Opened my eyes and hugged the quilt tightly. Dr. Lucas Nguyen. The director is calling you. A few of the men who came in seemed to be shocked and let out a gurgling gasp. Me? What Dr. Lucas Nguyen? I glanced along with their gazes. A man was lying beside me. Both legs were straight and slender. And further up. I was blind. We didn't mean to. The group rushed to explain with their eyes closed. I didn't recognize the group. Much less this one lying here. And just as I was at my wit's end. The person next to me reached up and pulled at the covers. His eyes opened a slit. Swept me away. And mumbled. Share me? I took a second to think about the words. Then let go of my hand on the fly. The covers barely covered a certain area. And he closed his eyes again. Lazily saying. Still not going? I was startled by him and was about to get out of bed when he sighed and said helplessly. Not you. As the words fell. The group of men finally stopped watching and threw down a sentence. The director is rushing for a meeting. So hurry down. Then they scrambled out of the room. The world was suddenly quiet. I hugged the corner of the quilt and sat there. Trembling in fear. What are you afraid of? He looked like he was shaking me out of sleep. Opened his eyes helplessly to look at me. Didn't hold on. And closed them again. I seem to be in a little pain. I began to babble because of the shock. And after I finished, I wanted to smack myself. He opened his eyes this time and finally didn't close them again. He just looked at me for a few seconds. Reached out and rubbed his temples. Then with a long hand. He barely wrapped his arms around my waist. The first time. It's like this. It'll be fine in a while. He was supposed to be comforting me. But instead of being comforted at all, I broke out in a cold sweat. Then I looked down and saw a small glob of blood on the sheets. Horrified. He stared at the blood as well. Froze for a moment. Reached out to rub my head. And lost his smile. I'm sorry. I lost control of myself a bit. Out of control? I broke out in a cold sweat again. Who are you? I asked in agony. He suddenly laughed at my exasperation. You don't even know who I am and you come and force me to sleep? I can't remember. I've never encountered such a thing before. Goosebumps rose. This won't get me pregnant. Will it? Well, I'm really convinced of myself. I'm not ashamed of myself for holding back all my doubts and asking this crucial question at this time. He opened his eyes again and glanced at me. That state of exhaustion. And I looked at his weak appearance. As if he would have to break at the slightest touch from me. I'm so ashamed of how crazy I was last night. Tossing someone around like that. It won't. He summed it up in one simple sentence. I was inexperienced and couldn't even remember the exact course of events last night. And I didn't dare ask more questions. I believed him when he said he wouldn't get pregnant. After all, those people called him a doctor. Maybe he took measures? That was all I could think. So, see you later? I chose to run away in order to avoid the embarrassment of everyone sobering up. He looked at me and suddenly smiled. Okay. I thought he and I would never see each other again. However, 2 weeks later, I was sitting in front of his department with a pregnancy test. Trembling in fear. Mrs. Nguyen. A male doctor popped up in front of me. I shuddered in fear and was almost sent packing. Are you waiting for Dr. Lucas Nguyen? He was enthusiastic again as if he knew me well. But in fact it was probably just a quick meeting at the hotel that morning. The one that made me extremely ashamed. 2 weeks ago. I went to a high school reunion. Got drunk and went to the wrong room. Later I realized that Dr. Lucas Nguyen and a group of doctors were having a meeting in that hotel that day. Coincidentally, Dr. Lucas Nguyen's room was right next to mine. And he was sick. So the colleague who was taking care of him forgot to close the door when he went out. And I just barged in. Then my colleague went to call him for a meeting in the morning. So there was the scene that morning. Ah. Yes. I perfunctorily told him. My whole face burning red. Wait inside with me. Without saying a word, he dragged me into the restroom. When he passed Dr. Lucas Nguyen, he glanced at me as if he didn't recognize me. Actually, I was getting a little close to not recognizing him. After all, I hadn't seen him get out of bed fully clothed. I waited apprehensively for 2 hours. And through the name tag on his desk, I realized his name was Lu Nguyen, a cardiology department doctor. I secretly searched his resume and found that he was already 29 years old. I silently calculate how many generation gaps there are between me and him. After a while, Lu Nguyen finally came in to change his clothes. He looked at me suspiciously. You wait for Ethan Joe? Me. Dr. Lucas Nguyen. I'll wait for you. I stood up, pinching my bag. My voice as small as a mosquito. And you are? Me. You really don't recognize anyone when you get out of bed? 2 weeks ago. In the hotel. I explained to him with a hard head. The more I explained, the more I lost my breath. Finally, I just took out the pregnancy test and carefully handed it to him. I seem to be pregnant. Dr. Lucas Nguyen. It's time to eat. Just then, a female doctor barged in. I was so scared that I tried to hide the pregnancy test. But it accidentally fell into the trash can next to the table. I looked at the trash can, afraid that he hadn't seen it. Torn between picking it up or not. Lu Nguyen didn't say anything. Just kept staring at me with a playful look. Your patient? The female doctor, however, didn't want to leave, and turned her gaze to me. I wanted to say something. A little embarrassed. Something's come up. You guys go. He doesn't introduce me. I had the feeling of being a thief. The female doctor walked reluctantly. And before she left, she deliberately pulled on his sleeve. As if declaring her sovereignty. He had a girlfriend. I was like thunderstruck. He, however, sat back down on his stool as if nothing had happened. Began to bury his head in his chart. And then half joked. Feeling better? Oh. My heart raced at his words. Not bad. I responded casually. He gave me a light look and smiled again. Want me to be responsible? I really admired him for being at this point in the game and still calmly writing his medical history as if I was just visiting him. I just don't know what to do. I hadn't thought of asking him to take responsibility. I was just a bit overwhelmed by the outcome and wanted to hear his opinion. I asked tentatively. It's going to be aborted, isn't it? I was still holding back on the surface. But my palms were actually sweating. He was still writing his chart. As if he was listening to me talk about something that had nothing to do with him. Jerk. He was so calm it really drove me crazy. Look at you. He looked up suddenly. His eyes straight at me. Still with little emotion. If you decide you don't want it, then don't. Can I? In this situation. Scared? There was a hint of teasing in his tone. I was stumped. Now you know you're scared. He gave me a meaningful look. Turned a new page of the chart and laughed. That's not like you that night. Me. Associated with the way he was dying that morning. I really wanted to know what I had done that night. But the way he said it seemed like he was putting all the blame on me alone. And I was a little offended. It wasn't my fault alone. I said so quietly that I found it hard to even hear myself. But he suddenly stopped writing and raised an eyebrow at me gently. A hint of a smile suddenly swirling on a serious face. I had a high fever that night. Do you think I had the strength to fight back? I was directly blocked by him. I thought in my heart. No strength to resist. Have the strength to toss me? A jerk is a jerk. Can breezily say these unspeakable things. And looks at ease in dealing with this kind of thing. I can't play him. If you think about it. He was silent for a moment. Continuing to write the chart. Writing the last line before he sighed and looked up. Just next week. Next week? I'm not free until next week. He explained. Okay. Adults have to pay for the things they've done. And I didn't have a problem with that. I was just internally apprehensive. A week later. I showed up at his office again. My resolve to have the surgery had been shaken. It started when my mom called me over for dinner this week. With my uncle, brother, and mom. And it was a lively meal. Back at the rental house. I looked around. The cozy image of what I had just seen at my mom's house floating in my mind. And I suddenly sighed. Feeling lonelier than ever. My mom and my dad divorced when I was very young. After the divorce, I followed my mom. And I'd been living in school since middle school. Because mom met my current uncle when I was in middle school and formed a new family. She was happy. And I should have been happy. But when I returned to the rented house, I felt physically and mentally exhausted. Suddenly I wanted to keep the baby. I was too lonely. I knew Lun Yan wouldn't agree. No one would. He probably has a girlfriend. So until I sat in his office again, I was still torn between keeping the baby or not. Mrs. Nyan. Here to see Dr. Lucas Nyan again? This must be the Ethan Zhou that Lun Yan was talking about. Yes. I sat there. A bit formal. Don't call me that. I reminded him in a low voice. Don't be shy. Ethan Zhou instantly came over. Looked around. And lowered his voice. We were all betting on who would subdue the cold Dr. Lucas Nyan. I never thought that it would be you. Mrs. Nyan. We admire you so much. Huh? I was amused by his words and reminded in a small voice. You guys misunderstood. I'm not. With him. Finally I gave up struggling and came up with. Doesn't he have a girlfriend? Don't talk nonsense. Who? He suddenly looked at me seriously. How come I don't know? I was also baffled. Dr. Lucas Nyan doesn't have a girlfriend? Did I misunderstand? You mean Dr. Lucas Nyan is looking for another woman behind Mrs. Nyan's back? I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain. In the other woman. Are you idle? Suddenly a sentence floated overhead and a figure appeared in front of us. Lun Yan. I stood up immediately in shock. Having the embarrassment of being caught red-handed talking in class. I was just about to say something. Ethan Zhou was also so scared that he immediately slipped out of the room with his medical records in his arms in a pretentious manner. Didn't say you. After Ethan Zhou left, Lun Yan softened his tone, rubbed my head, and gestured for me to sit down before sitting at the desk himself. I was a little embarrassed. Why does he always like to rub my head? Doesn't he know that this action makes people feel both intimate and ashamed? Why is he always so afraid of me? He gave me a look for no reason. Am I scary? I sat down a little nervously. No. Just maybe I think you're older. Like what? He was suddenly interested. An elder. I answered honestly. Elder? He laughed in exasperation. How old are you? A month shy of 22. I was a bit weak from his laughter. It kills me when a serious person suddenly laughs. Besides, he had an overly attractive face. It's a little young. He stopped smiling and wondered what he was thinking. You wait. He stood up abruptly and went to his cubicle to change. These few minutes. I waited torturously. And I was a bit torn on what to say. Because Ethan Zhou had just said that Dr. Lucas Nyan didn't have a girlfriend. My heart was even more shaken. When I think about it. I'm 22 years old and I've never been in a relationship. And Lucas Nyan. No matter how he looks, talks, and works. He still meets my expectations of a significant other. Of course. Except for the fact that he is a scum. I was thinking that maybe I could have a relationship with him. Finally I gathered the courage to stand up. walked to the door of his cubicle and knocked gently. Dr. Lucas Nguyen. I'd like to ask you a question. I clenched my fists. I didn't actually have the courage to say it to his face. It was better to say it through the door like this. He didn't answer and I hesitated to continue. Do you have a girlfriend? If not, can we try? I want to keep this baby. That one sentence seemed to take all my strength. I stood in the doorway, waiting for his judgment. Then the door opened. And instead of his judgment, I waited for the judgment of the cell phone loudspeaker. Stay. Of course I'm staying. If you move a muscle, I'll break off relations with you. Bring me back my grandson-in-law in one piece. He leaned on the doorframe and handed the phone to me before continuing to change the volume of the voice on the other end of the line high enough to reflect the exasperation of the one on the other side. What's this? My heart skipped a beat as I took the hot potato. My grandfather. He reached up and pressed his temples, smiling helplessly. Granddaughter-in-law. Is it? Don't be afraid. When Lun Yen that brat comes back, I'll break his legs. And he'll dare to bully you. The child must stay. Lun Yen grandfather said a big piece on the phone. I was so embarrassed that I picked my feet. I can only nod my head one by one and say yes. And Lun Yen even heard the end. A matter-of-fact attitude. And ran to sit and write the medical record. Is he a human being? I don't have it. After answering the phone, my head buzzed. I walked over to him and handed the phone back, not daring to look at him. What a way to get into trouble. He looked at me and sighed deeply. I didn't realize you were answering the phone. I looked apologetic. Anyway, don't listen to him. He stood up and summarized the sentence. Dr. Lucas Nguyen. Did you hear what I just said? I cut to the chase. My grandfather heard me. Didn't you? He asked me back. Oh. I waited for his answer. Think again. I took his words as a rejection and froze in place. My hands and feet going cold. Why? I admired myself for asking such a question at a time like this. He froze for a moment and sighed. You're too young and too well behaved. I'm not a nice person. After that he swept me away again and murmured. Too young. For a moment I couldn't tell where he said small. But in any case I blushed with shame. I don't know how I walked out of that office. Just kept repeating in my head the last thing he said. The best option to fix a mistake is to stop it in time. Not to cover up the previous mistake with another one. I told him to skip the surgery for today for now and fled the place. 2 days later, when I had no hope in this matter, I was suddenly contacted by Lun Yen's family. This included his grandfather, grandmother, grandparents, mom, dad, aunt and uncle. Within a day, I almost had a breakdown answering the phone. Anyway, their central meaning is one. The child must stay. Lun Yen they go to deal with. As for how? I don't think anyone would be able to withstand such a bombardment of relatives. Sure enough, the next day, Lun Yen appeared at the door of my rented house. What brings you here? I was surprised when I opened the door and saw him. Because he was leaning against the wall in front of my door. A cigarette in his hand. But his face was pale as hell. And cigarette butts had fallen all over the floor. Solve this little problem of yours. The words fell out of his mouth as he reached out and touched my head before scooping me aside and heading straight for my house. I'm sorry. I don't know how your grandfather and the others got my number. I could tell he was annoyed by this. He extinguished his cigarette. Didn't answer me directly. Sat down lazily in a corner of the sofa and smiled. I was on night duty last night. I'm a bit sleepy now. Can you lend me a place to lie down for 2 hours? Ah. Yes. I hurriedly moved the Muppets on the couch out of the way to give him a place to lie down. No wonder. His whole body looked so tired. After he laid down, I realized that my couch was too small for his height. So it was a bit stifling for him to sleep like this. And it shouldn't be very comfortable. But he still fell asleep in a second. He said he would sleep for 2 hours and asked me to call him. But when the time came, his head was still buried deep in my sofa and he looked so tired that I couldn't bear to call him. I don't call him. But he wakes up on his own at the right time. He reached over and looked at the mechanical watch on his wrist. 8:30. It's open. He sat up on his own and looked refreshed again. What's open? I asked him. In fact, these 2 hours. I was very apprehensive. I do not know what he came to do. After the last time I was rejected. I do not want to see him again. A little embarrassed. Is the account book here? He suddenly stared into my eyes. No. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. It's at my mom's. He stared at me for a while. Then smiled again and sighed. It's time to go there. By the time I regained my senses, he and I were already downstairs at my mom's. Suzu. He suddenly called my name. Have you thought about it? What? I couldn't get my head around it for a second. But I returned a habitual. What I said before was true. And I'm usually pretty busy. I'm in the hospital 6 out of 7 days a week. And the rest of the days I'm on call. I'm probably one of those people who gets out of bed and pats himself on the back. He suddenly looked at me and sighed. Oh. I understand. You doctors save lives. It's great. I didn't really know how to take his words. He stared at me for a second. Like he was trying to read in my eyes if I was lying or not. And I got a little weak from his stare. All right then. After saying that, he pulled me upstairs. At first, my mom was a bit surprised. Then I don't know what Lun Yan told her. But she was so happy that she burst into laughter. I thought that for a child of a combined family like mine, family relationships would be overwhelming for him. But I didn't expect that he would be able to handle it with ease. In 3 or 2 tries, he took my mom and uncle down. After dinner, my mom even urged me to go get our marriage license. Hurry up. Don't delay Xiaolu's surgery in the evening. I'm not sure I know what Lun Yan gave my mom. I really don't know what kind of magic soup Lun Yan gave my mom. How can she bear to put her daughter in the hands of a man she met for the first time? Emil in a confused manner. I just ate and followed him to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Until the final reading of the marriage vows. I have not gotten over the shock of the flash marriage. It is said that marriage is the grave of love. But Lun Yan and I do not even have love between us. So I feel like I have become a lonely ghost. The day we got our marriage license from the Civil Affairs Bureau, he went to the hospital, threw a key to me, and then did not appear again. I thought it was pointless to live at his place alone. So I moved back to the rented house. Not home? I received this text from him a few days later. I smiled bitterly. He finally remembered that there was someone like me. Out with friends. I was shopping with my bestie Lin when I messaged him. Your day off? I sent him another message and it went stone cold. I was a little angry. What did he mean? Unwilling to give up. I sent him another one. Do you want to have dinner together tonight? As a result, there was still no reply for a long time. I didn't. When I was shopping, I was completely out of the mood and simply got angrier and angrier as I thought about it. Not many people knew about my got our marriage license. But Lin did. You haven't slept together once since you got married? She looked at me in surprise. He's very busy. I explained. Actually, I couldn't even convince myself of that reason. Even if he's busy, he's still a man. He doesn't have needs? Lin's words lifted my spirits. What Lin meant was, could he have another woman? I thought of the female doctor who approached him for dinner the other day. However, he and I didn't have any emotional foundation in the first place. And he was probably forced by his family to get a license from me. So I didn't seem to have any qualifications to limit him. Thinking about this annoyed me. I went back to his place at night anyway. Looked around. No one was there. He was gone. There was a twinge of loss inside me. Back in my room, I stood by the closet and started to change. Ready to go wash up. As it turned out, I had just stripped down to my underwear. Back? He sounded lazy. Like he had just woken up. Startled, I hurriedly reached up to cover myself. And when I turned around, I saw half a face emerging from the end of the covers. Why didn't you make a sound? I was in a cold sweat of shock. He reluctantly pulled back a section of the quilt and moved his body up, his eyes finally landing on me. "Did you really not know I was home? Or did you deliberately?" He laughed while tilting his head recklessly to look at me. "You. He doesn't come back for days. And when he does, he's a jerk." I was furious and rushed to find a shirt to put on. I went to the bathroom, his gaze still fixed on me. I got out of the bathroom and he was still staring at me and still kept smiling without saying anything. I was a little hairy. "What are you staring at me for? Not sleeping?" He changed his usual serious look and looked lazy. "I can't sleep after sleeping all day." "Slept all day?" He didn't reply to my messages because he was asleep? I admit. My cranky mood was dispelled a bit by his words. "I'm going to sleep then." I still wasn't going to ignore him. He could go days without seeing me or contacting me. And it would be too humiliating for me to initiate a conversation with him. I debated whether to sleep in the bed or go to the couch. Then I thought. Imal got our marriage license with him. And with a crossed heart, I went straight to the bed, pulled up the covers, and turned my back to him. He didn't move next to me. I didn't hold back and turned around to see him ordering takeout. "You didn't eat?" I asked him. "Didn't get around to it," he said back to me. I looked at him a few more times. Seeing how tired he looked and thinking about how tired he really was after sleeping all day without eating. "Are all doctors this tired? You haven't been home the last couple days. Where have you been staying?" I didn't hold back and asked him anyway. He gave me a look, probably not expecting me to ask him this. "Hospital. I'd rather stay in the hospital than at home. Why does it feel like I'm forcing him to be homeless?" I stopped talking. I can't get away from my patient these days. He finished putting down his phone and stared at me. It was like a punch to a cotton castle. And some emotion spread through me. "Oh." I answered back. Then thought of something and said, "Do you want some noodles? I'll give it to you down there." He froze for a moment. Then a smile spread from the corners of his mouth. And as soon as he smiled, I began to reflect on what I'd said. And then the more I thought about it, the more wrong it became. When I realized why he was smiling, I instantly blushed. I said egg noodles. I didn't know how to retort. I just felt him laugh even more. Just as I was getting exasperated, he put down his phone and tightened his smile. "Okay. Then wait for me for a while. I'd better go to the kitchen and calm down." I rolled out of bed and went to the kitchen. Because I haven't lived with my parents since I was a kid. I'm actually fairly independent. I can cook all of this. I'm just not really good at it. Thinking that he was hungry all day, I moved a little fast. Not a few times. The pot grunted and tossed out a burst of aroma. Turning around, I realized he was in his pajamas, leaning against the doorframe, watching me cook the noodles with interest. The fridge is a little low on stuff, so we'll just have to make do. There were really only eggs and noodles in the fridge. And I'd bought the eggs the other day. "Why don't you go wait outside on the couch? I'll be ready soon." He looked at me for a few more moments and finally smiled. "Okay." After saying that, he stepped on the mop and lazily walked towards the living room. I realized later that I might have underestimated his eating capacity after all. He ate slowly and carefully. When he ate noodles, surprisingly, he didn't even paste the soup around his mouth. But he surprisingly finished a huge bowl of noodles and even used a spoon to finish the soup bit by bit. Did I cook too little? I was a little embarrassed. "It's me. I'm too hungry." When he said the last two words, his eyes suddenly looked at me and trailed off. My heart skipped half a beat and I avoided his gaze, hurriedly gathering the dishes and going to the kitchen. Just after washing them, I turned around to find him biting on a cigarette and standing in the kitchen doorway looking at me. Why was this guy being weird tonight? It made me uncomfortable. I tidied up and brushed past him as I prepared to exit the kitchen, whispering, "Such a smoker." Just as I said that, my foot tripped on something. My center of gravity faltered. And then my whole body flung itself into his arms. Two people suddenly close to so close. I was so nervous that I rushed to leave. but was held down by him. He lowered his head and looked at me in his arms. Then removed the cigarette and lowered his voice to ask, "Don't like it?" "I get a little dizzy from the smell of smoke," I replied in a whisper. He froze for a moment. Then held down my shoulder and pulled me closer, almost face to face, telling me, "Then I won't smoke anymore." Oh. For a moment, I didn't know if I was compelled by his words or by his ambiguous posture like this. But I couldn't say a word. My heart was beating so fast that I thought for sure my whole face was red. "I don't want to. But sometimes I need this refreshment. What will I rely on to refresh myself in the future? Tell me?" He teased me on purpose. I knew he was teasing me. But I was still nervous as hell. "Do you want chrysanthemum tea then?" I asked in a whisper. Puff. I had just finished speaking when he laughed again. At first it was just a light laugh with pursed lips. But then it was simply a laugh that made his body shake. I was a little embarrassed, wondering what he was laughing at and if I had said something wrong again. He wrapped his arms around my waist and finally sat me down on the kitchen countertop in his arms. His body pressed over and clasped my head. "Chrysanthemum tea is for fire. Silly. I don't need it." As soon as the words left his mouth, his kisses smashed up shallow and dense. My mind instantly went blank. I gently pushed him with my hands. But he held me down and couldn't move. There is a natural difference in strength between men and women. Halfway through the kiss, I realized that his hands slowly began to explore downward. And I snapped back to my senses, holding down his restless hands with both hands. He paused for a second and looked at me, his breath starting to get a little unsteady, releasing me for a while to slow down. His eyes still full of desire. "Still don't really take what I said to heart, huh?" He punished me with a light pinch on my waist and stared at me again. "What words?" My whole body was unconscious. At that moment, a cell phone rang. It was his. He glanced in the direction of the living room, then at me, before finally letting go of me and turning to go out to answer the phone. He walked away and I dared to take a big breath. My whole head was buzzing as he walked in again. But by now the lust in his eyes had faded. "I'm going to the hospital. So you can sleep." Without waiting for me. After saying that, without any other words, he left. And finally I looked in the direction he left, only to hear a slamming door. I sat alone in the kitchen in a daze. I didn't understand what he meant by suddenly kissing me. Was it a sudden heartfelt gesture? Or was he just trying to walk on his kidneys and not his heart? I felt that it was the latter. A little upset, I simply went back to bed, covered myself with the quilt and prepared to sleep blindfolded. But the smell of him still remains on the quilt, which makes my heart beat a little disorderly. When I woke up in the morning, my side was empty. He didn't come back again. That kiss last night was like a dream, waking up without a trace. But I still didn't move out again. Maybe I can't even tell what thoughts I have in my heart. In the next few days, I felt unusually tired and irritable. His grandparents and parents came over to give me a lot of food. Chickens, ducks, fish, eggs, stuffed a refrigerator full. I was a bit overwhelmed by their enthusiasm. When they asked Lun Yan how he was treating me, I said he was fine. God knows. I hadn't seen him for days again. Just as they were laughing about telling the child's fortune and naming him so and so, I suddenly felt something strange underneath my body. I was so shocked that I quickly went to the toilet, and then I was so shocked by the blood on my pants that my brain went blank for an instant. Later on, almost a whole family came together to take me to the hospital. I couldn't think of anything else. I only had one thought in my mind. I hope the baby is okay. I began to blame myself. Why I felt tired these days still working. Did not go to the hospital to see. Did not even tell Lun Yan. I had never been so scared. My whole body was shaking. Maybe I had watched too many TV dramas. I thought the baby must be gone. When I went to the emergency room, my family was busy running around. And finally Lun Yan came. When he came, I couldn't hold back the tears that were falling down my face. "Don't be afraid." He took my hand. It was also the first time I saw him frown and not say a word. The emergency doctor finally finished his examination and told everyone to get out, leaving Lun Yan alone. Dr. Lucas Nyen. Are you sure Mrs. Nyen is pregnant? Me. What do you mean? Lun Yan asked in a deep voice. According to the indicators. The emergency doctor was about to say something, but finally whispered. Mrs. Nyen seems to be having a normal menstrual cycle. Are you kidding me? I was baffled. Lun Yan looked at me. Also baffled. I've been off my period for 2 months. According to the ultrasound. Mrs. Nyen. You have a benign cyst in your uterus, which usually causes delayed menstruation and menstrual disorders. The ER doctor explained. The emergency doctor explained. Didn't you have any tests done at that time? He asked again. No. I just took a pregnancy test. And it showed that I was pregnant. I whispered. Lun Yan was so speechless that he didn't want to say a word. And took a moment to slow down before asking. You gave it to me at the time. And I didn't look at it. So are you sure that you bought a pregnancy test and not an ovulation test? Oh. A thunderbolt came down over my head and I was out of it. I didn't look hard enough. I said with a sob. I was so nervous. I just grabbed one at the drugstore and left. I took the test and looked at it. And I didn't dare look at it again myself. The emergency doctor had already retreated, leaving the space for us. Lun Yan cried a little after hearing my words. He paused for a while before accepting this fact. Then reached out and touched my head, whispering, It's okay. Don't think too much. He looked like he was relieved and helped me up. Where can it be okay? I was already crying from my own stupidity in my heart. Then, your family. They asked me what to do. I was so dumbfounded by my own behavior that I couldn't speak. My own stupidity is just fine. And now there are still a bunch of people standing outside worrying about me. I really want to find a crack in the ground to drill in. Don't worry about it. I'll talk. He calmed me down and walked out. I don't know how he went about it. Except that when I finally got out, they weren't out there anymore. Probably mad at me. Just thinking about it made me so sad. I ended up going to Lun Yan's lounge. He told me to wait for him to get off work and go back together. I lay alone in the lounge fuming. Where is your Dr. Lucas Nyen? I sat up at once when I heard the female voice outside the door. He's gone for surgery. A small nurse's voice. He didn't get much sleep last night. Why is he scheduled for surgery again? A return patient. Designated for Dr. Lucas Nyen. I don't think I should be imagining things. But hearing her say that he didn't sleep well made me think the wrong way. Dr. Liang. You and Dr. Lucas Nyen are getting close. Aren't you? The nurse asked again in a low voice. It's still early. That Dr. Liang's tone was full of laughter. I really didn't mean to eavesdrop. But when I heard this, I couldn't help but feel a chill down my back. My whole body was light and my mind was confused. Then I quietly walked away. And when I came back to my senses, I was standing at the intersection, looking around at the people coming and going. They brushed past me. But none of them stopped for me. Thinking of the stupid things I had done in the past month, I couldn't stop my tears from falling down. I don't know how long I cried. But when the tears dried up, I took a cab to his house and moved my stuff out. Back at the rental house, I edited the WeChat several times. And finally pressed the send button. The content was only one sentence. Let's divorce. Maybe in his view is childish. All along to make all these messes my own. Do not know what to do is also me. Want to get married. Get married. Want to get divorced. Divorce. Or me. However, even if I want to stay with him, I don't have any more reasons. I feel like I'm doing nothing but causing trouble for him and his family. That Dr. Liang really is the last time I thought his girlfriend. They work together, eat together, and look like that pair. What do I count? I am nothing. I can only withdraw. So that night's kiss was really just an impulse that didn't make any sense. After sending the message, I turned off my phone and went to bed. And then slept with my head covered. I woke up in the middle of the night with a painful period. I dragged my tired body and got up to get myself a warm water bag to cover my stomach. In the gap between boiling water, I still couldn't resist turning on the machine. As a result, after half a day of scrolling, my mood hit rock bottom. He did not return a message. He may be busy. The patient might have a new condition. He might have fallen asleep and didn't see it. He saw it and probably forgot to reply. I made all kinds of excuses for him. But even I didn't believe them. I just felt silly. How could I expect him to keep me? Later I hugged the warm water bag. A person curled up in the quilt. Thinking about it. The nose is sour. Or cannot help but fall tears. This matter I have not told my mom. I do not know how to say. She may scold me. Scolded me how confused. Nothing clear. Made such a big mess. Really shameful. I slept in a daze for the night. And at 7 in the morning, I got up to go to the bathroom. Glanced at my cell phone. And was surprised to see a message. Are you awake? Open the door. It was Lun Yen. My heart tightened for a moment. Upon closer inspection, the time of the message was 6:30. He came half an hour ago? I didn't have time to change before I went to open the door for him. Worrying all the way there that he was long gone. After all, he didn't seem like a very patient person. As soon as I opened the door, I ended up seeing him half squinting and leaning against the wall. Smoking. He heard the sound of looking at the door and stared at me slyly. A pair of cold eyes startled me. What brings you here? I lowered my head, not wanting him to see my eyes. It was a little swollen. He didn't say anything. Just extinguished his cigarette and fished my head with one long hand. Then skillfully closed the door with the other. What did you mean by the message you sent me last night? He pressed me against the door and looked down at me, forcing me to look at him. I bit my lip. Not answering. I didn't know how to answer. It was all an oops. It was time to get back on track. I didn't want to commit myself to a paper marriage anymore. It wasn't you who said you wanted to try it out with me. What? You got tired of trying it out within a few days? I don't say anything. I'm not willing to force myself. If you've really thought it through, I respect your decision. Hearing him say he respected my decision still stung my heart inexplicably. In the beginning it was because I mistakenly thought there was a child that we both got our marriage license. Now that I know it's a farce, I shouldn't pester you anymore. You have your life. You can go and be with the girl you like and deserve. You're free. I closed my eyes and tried not to cry. What girl? Where are the girls? He was getting a little angry too. A pair of eyes stared coldly at me, seemingly on the verge of lashing out at any moment. Stop talking? If you don't tell me clearly what girl today, I'm not going to let you fool around. I don't know why he is so angry. Isn't it true that he doesn't want to get married either, but is just being forced by me and his family to get married? Isn't it true that he doesn't come home every day because he doesn't want to, and would rather sleep in the hospital? Now that I've granted him his wish, why is he still angry? That Dr. Liang, doesn't she like you? I gathered my courage and said. He froze, silent for a while before saying, what's it to me if she likes me? I don't have any feelings for her. I don't know why, but I was suddenly relieved to hear him say that he didn't have feelings for Dr. Liang. Then who do you have feelings for? I felt that I was being overly bold to ask him such a question. He was also a bit surprised, and finally boarded his face. To someone who came to mess with me who had a high fever. He again. Bringing up my shameful past that night again. Why do I feel like I'll never be his match when it comes to flirting? So, I shut up completely. When he saw that I didn't say anything, he put away his hostility again, gently rubbed the top of my hair, and sighed. Why are you so disobedient? I'm not a pet. Why should I be obedient? I retorted in a small voice. He froze for a moment and suddenly smiled. I didn't have time to check my phone last night. He lowered his voice and explained. I was up until 3 a.m. dealing with a patient, and when I looked at my cell phone I got a message from you. Do you know how I felt? Why does he always stay up so late? Always work so late? So tired? I suddenly felt that I was being unreasonable. What feelings? I asked in a small voice. He looked at me and suddenly leaned in with his whole face. I thought his next step was to kiss me. I was so scared that my fingers were tugged tightly. But he misplaced my face and moved behind his ear. And lowered his voice. Doctor's profession is quite good in everything. But it's quite wasteful of girlfriends. I've been working for a few years and my girlfriends have run away for several times. And it's not easy for an unwanted white rabbit to jump into the pit. And it's almost run away again. He laughed when he finished speaking. I froze. His sudden ambiguous words made my heart almost jump out. Without waiting for me to react, he inclined his head and was about to kiss me. But I reflexively dodged. Heh. He licked his lips and let out a soft chortle. Not giving a kiss? Didn't brush my teeth. I just got up. I can't imagine if I'd be disgusted if he kissed me. I was too ashamed. Didn't brush your teeth, or are you disgusted that I smoked? He asked me. No. I really didn't brush. I cried slightly. Okay. Suddenly a force was applied to my waist. And my whole body was lifted up in the air. What are you doing? I was so unsteady that I had to reach out and wrap my arms around his neck. Brushing my teeth. After saying that, he carried me into the bathroom. And then the two of us brushed our teeth in silence under this ambiguous atmosphere. After I finished brushing my teeth, I tried to run. But he tackled me. He reached out and held me down on the door. One hand resting on the back of my head. He lowered his head and kissed my lips. He must have liked my orange-flavored toothpaste, or why else would he have kissed me until my tongue went numb and still wouldn't leave me alone. Finally he wrapped his arms around my waist and held me down in his arms to catch his breath. You don't want to divorce me? I asked for no reason. He was always like this. Taking it upon himself to kiss me. Flirting with me. But never taking a stand. I always felt empty in my heart. A feeling of not being able to catch. He crossed my eyes and didn't answer my question with a straight face. He just gasped and asked with a cold face. Is it that you want to come again? No. I dropped my eyes sheepishly. Why did he make it sound like I said those things just to ask for a kiss? Although kissing him with my heart racing and the sky darkening felt wonderful, I wasn't the kind of person who didn't have any skin in the game. Don't mess with me if you're not. He reached out and squeezed my waist. Do you know I put up with a lot? I giggled inside. Just now when I kissed him to the point of confusion. He hugged me very tightly. And I was not unaware of the changes in his body. Being told by him like this. I blushed to the point of dripping even more. Don't you always be like this? I still hope to get a positive answer from him. I'm a person who is very easy to take the bull by the horns when it comes to relationships. My mom says I'm too stupid and too serious. I have to think about it for a long time when other people make a joke. If you don't like me and tell me this, I'll be very torn. I'll have trouble sleeping and eating. And I'll keep thinking about what you really mean. Whether you're playing me or. When I got to the end, I kind of lost it. I grew up as an overly serious person. And because of this I was often ridiculed by others who said I couldn't afford to play. Later on, I also learned. A lot of care about things as easy as possible to say out. Or simply care about the heart buried in the bottom of the heart. So as not and everyone seems so out of place. Just like this hasty marriage. I also thought for a long time. I'm afraid that Lun Yan think I'm a more serious person. But also afraid of my own will is not expressed clearly. I do not have to him. Just already married. I have a cleanliness in marriage. I also do not want him to flirt with me on the one hand. And flirt with others on the other. He doesn't come home daily. And although I pretend I don't care, I can't help but feel inexplicably better when he does. Are you stupid? He pressed my eyebrow without a smile. If I didn't fancy you, I just haven't touched a woman in my life. And I wouldn't have lost control of myself the first time I saw you. Me. What do you mean? He fell for me the first time he saw me? Is that possible? Or was he just making it up to swindle me? In the morning, he wrapped his arms around me again and went to bed. Lying with him for a while. His whole body looks incredibly tired. But his hand is holding my hand tightly. Has refused to let go. In a daze, he started talking to himself again. That night I ate in the hotel. Ran into a group of you students. Laughing and joking. Only you quietly sitting in the corner. The first time I noticed you. The heart is thinking. How can there be such a quiet and well-behaved girl? And such a girl to stay together. No noise. The days should be more comfortable. You even peeped at me. I was stunned. I didn't see him at all at that time. At that time, I was ready to confess to a male classmate whom I had liked for many years. Only that he brought his girlfriend before I could do so. Years of crushes ended up being lost loves for me alone. That's why I sat there so quietly. Because I didn't want to talk at all. My heart was obviously bitter. And I still had to put a smile on my face. Then you even started drinking. I saw you drink so much it just blew my mind. And then you ended up running into my room and kissing me as soon as you came up. Crying while you did it. I was so impressed with you. He half smiled and wrapped his arms around my waist again. Why are you so cute? Ah. It's just shameful. Why did I go up to him and kiss him while crying? It's so humiliating. Please forget it. I cried. Trying to erase this memory of him. Don't. He gently nibbled on my earlobe. Unless next time. I'll let you cry while kissing too. Maybe I can try to refresh the memory. Okay. I got it in seconds and stopped talking. I got out of bed before he could say anything more blush-inducing. You take a nap. I'm going to get some groceries. What do you want to eat? I asked him. He smiles with his eyes closed. All of it. Okay. I don't ask him anymore. I just get organized and head out the door. It's strange. Love seems to be a good medicine for wounds. Originally, I had a stomachache last night. And my heart ached. But once he came, he coaxed me out of all my problems with just a few words. The doctor is really a doctor. Can cure any disease. So on the way to the grocery store, my mood became unusually relaxed. After buying the groceries and coming home, I made several dishes. He slept until the afternoon. When he ate, he laughed while eating. What are you always smiling about? When he laughed, I was so weak. You're a pretty good cook, he said as he took another piece of ribs and ate it delicately. I don't usually have many hobbies because of one person. So I just study the food. I didn't want to bring up the fact that I was cooking my best dishes to please him. Then I've earned it. He looked at me with a smile. Hospital food is pretty bad. I've never tasted it in a hurry every time I've eaten it. He brushed off the heartache of his job. I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. So can you go home at night when you're not on duty? Tell me in advance and I'll make dinner for you. Or you can tell me what you like to eat and I'll try to make it. I was even about to start taking a little notebook to write down his favorite dishes. But he suddenly laughed again. What are you laughing at? I was speechless. It feels good to be married. He took another spoonful of soup. Not hiding his love for my cooking. It made me so happy to hear him say that. It was all worth it. After dinner, I was in the kitchen washing dishes when he came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. My body froze instantly. What's wrong? I'll try to come back when I'm not on duty from now on. So don't get any more ideas. Huh? He kissed my neck. It tickled. Good. Kids. I can have them whenever you want. It's just that I have very little time to take care of my family. And I'm afraid you'll work too hard. He explained to me. Doctors are like that. When I take care of my family, I can't take care of my patients. Sometimes my patients are more important than myself. They put their lives in my hands. So I can't help but do my best. To save a patient is to save a family. Do you understand? I rejected you initially because I didn't want to hurt you. You are still young and I am afraid that if you haven't been in love yet and stay with someone like me who doesn't go home every day, having a boyfriend is the same as not having one. Which is not fair to you. I'm a person. This is all I've got in my life. I don't even know if there will be a day when I die of old age on the operating table where I have had countless surgeries. You are still young. And I am afraid that you will somehow fall into this kind of long-distance relationship before you have ever enjoyed being in love. He said. His voice a little choked. He said. His voice choking a little. I was shocked in my heart. What he said was the truth. I had neither been in love nor enjoyed the beauty of a relationship. And I also knew that doctors were hard and busy. But I didn't realize that he had given it so much thought when he turned me down. And I thought he just wanted to have fun and was a jerk who didn't want to be responsible. I'm actually pretty independent. Don't worry. I'll take care of myself. I told him with a smile. He wrenched me over and looked at me, wanting to say something. Finally he gripped my hands tightly. You be good. Uh-huh. At this moment, my heart was sweeter than honey. In the evening, Lun Yan left again. I moved back into his house. He was still very busy. And 2 nights a week at home was good enough. I couldn't see him all the time. At first I missed him a little. Then I got used to it. And I took advantage of his absence to organize the house and pass the time. Occasionally I would visit his grandparents, Mom and Dad. And they didn't mind what happened before. They just told me to relax. That we were still young. And that there was plenty of time to have kids. Everything was going so well. I felt like my life was on the up and everything was coming together. But I always felt something was wrong. One morning I was hugged by a pair of hands behind me. I woke up. Just wanted to ask him. But his body was pulled over. Fine and dense kisses fell. Kissing my head dizzy. His hands were not idle. What happened afterward happened naturally. Su Shui. He called my name in a muffled voice. Uh-huh. I responded by reaching up and wrapping my arms around his neck. Susu. Me. I got goosebumps at his fleshy name. You. Baby. As it turns out, I can't handle an old man when he's up to it. Early in the morning, I was tossed and turned several times by him. You get some sleep. I felt sorry for him for being so tired. But he still came back to me. But he put his arm around me and said helplessly. In the past, when I was on my way back from work, all I could think about was sleeping. Well, what about now? Now, all I think about is sleeping with you. He's really becoming more and more of a hooligan lately. Aren't you tired? I gave him a dirty look. Tired? He said truthfully. I blame you for sleeping next to me. It's like poison. One touch and it's all over. Can we still talk normally? I'm always surprised by how full of shit he is. And now he's not even a shadow of the serious guy he was at the hospital. Lun Yan. I buried my head in his chest. How did you explain my joke to your family last time? He froze for a while. Just tell them that you were so angry with me that you lost your child. So they don't mess with you. What? You're so full of shit. I was absolutely flabbergasted. It worked out well. Didn't it? They're treating you better than me now. Me. But what he said was true. I told him. No wonder his family didn't give me a hard time at all. They were so warm to me. And they didn't say a word about that incident. I suddenly felt that although Lun Yan seldom did those romantic things, he was actually like me. Quietly thinking about the other person inside. That's really nice. Lun Yan. You're so good to me. I couldn't help but kiss him on the cheek. Don't kiss me. But he sighed. I'm afraid you won't be able to stand it later. I was once again shut up completely by him. He looked at me with amusement and reached out to rub my head. I usually have so little time to take care of you. I wish my family would be nicer to you. As a way to make up for it. So that's what he thought. I didn't make a sound. But in my heart, I was sweetened to death by him. Lun Yan. Let's have a baby in the future. Okay? I won't be lonely if I have her with me. He froze for a while and softly said a word on top of my head. Good. Later. His breathing gradually calmed down. He fell asleep. I lay in his arms. I feel the years a quiet good.